Hey everybody, KMO here with another Out of My Head video, and today I am going to look at the results of a quiz, which, the results form a study, you might say. It is called the perception gap. What is the perception gap? The perception gap is the mismatch between what people believe and what people among competing ideologies believe that they believe. And before I get into it, you might want to go and actually take the test yourself before you hear me discuss the results. Because, after you've heard this first video, you'll never have the opportunity to take the test as a virgin, so to speak. If you do take it later, your participation will be tainted somewhat by what you've already heard in this video and the next couple days' videos. I think this is going to be about a 3-day arc. So this is exclusive to citizens of the United States. If you live in Canada, you can probably participate, but getting any further afield than that, your participation and the results you get won't be that meaningful. This is very specifically targeted at USanians, or Americans, as we sometimes call ourselves. So the website is perceptiongap.us. So just pop on over there, take the test, put this video on hold, come back, watch it when you're done. So at the very beginning, we see these two circles. Estimated proportion of Republicans and Democrats holding extreme views, 55%. The actual figure is 30%. How do the authors of this report know? Well, there is a quiz associated with this report. They quizzed 2,100 Americans on their political beliefs, and then they quizzed them on what they thought people with conflicting beliefs or competing beliefs thought. So let's get into the first set of examples. This is what Democrats thought that Republicans believed. So, for example, here's a statement. Properly controlled immigration can be good for America. Actual Republicans agreed with this statement. It looks like about 85% of the time. Kind of hard to tell exact percentages here on this graph. Definitely between 75 and 100, so let's call it 85. Democrats thought that fewer than half of Republicans would agree with that statement. So the perception gap between them is 33. Interestingly, the score of independents, and when I took the test, I identified myself as an independent. Self-identified independents don't fall exactly midway between the two. They are closer to Democrats on this question. Next, racism still exists in America. About 80% of Republicans agreed with that statement, but Democrats thought that only half of Republicans would agree with that statement. So the perception gap there is 28. So we go on down the line. Many Muslims are good Americans. Sexism still exists in America. The government should do more to stop guns getting into the hands of bad people. And now we get to the places, there's a couple questions where Democrats were pretty right on in their estimation of what Republicans think on these issues. Donald Trump is a flawed person. A bit less than half of Republicans agreed with that. And Democrats were pretty much right on in guessing what Republicans thought on that issue. Same is true of this next one. People are right to be concerned about how climate change might affect us. Looks like 45%, somewhere in there, of Republicans agreed with that. Democrats thought that slightly more Republicans would agree with that than actually did, but still, the difference is only 2%. They're pretty close. So let's flip it around. This is what Republicans think of the opinions held by Democrats. So this first one is a little awkward, because it's how many people would disagree with this statement. Most police are bad people. Disagree. So Republicans thought that slightly less than half of Democrats would disagree with the statement that most police are bad people, when in fact, more than 80% of Democrats disagreed with the statement that most police are bad people. Police may have some bad incentives. They may be incentivized to be authoritarian bullies, and I think we can all agree, certainly many cops are authoritarian bullies. The power has gone to their head, but it doesn't mean that they're bad people. How about this next one? I am proud to be an American, though I acknowledge my country's flaws. Well, Republicans thought that about half of Democrats, a little more than half, would agree with that statement, when in fact, actually a little bit more than 3/4 of Americans agree with that statement. So the spread there is 28. Republicans are pretty far off on the patriotism of Democrats. So as with the previous chart, these examples go from places where Republicans are way off in what they think Democrats think to examples of where they're pretty right on. So they go It is important that men are protected from false accusations pertaining to sexual assault. Republicans thought that fewer than half of Democrats think that men need to be protected from false accusations, whereas almost 3/4, maybe 2/3 of Democrats think that that is important. And then the place where the perception gap is the least is the U.S. should abolish ICE, or Immigration and Customs Enforcement. And again, this is one of those disagrees. So, Democrats, for the most part, it looks like a little more than half of Democrats disagree with the statement that the U.S. should abolish ICE, whereas Republicans, again, we can't see the exact figure here, but it's a 13-point spread. So Republicans thought that fewer Democrats would disagree with that statement than actually did, but they're not that far off. So let's go back. Democrat perceptions of Republicans' beliefs, there's a perception gap of 19 points, or 19%. Whereas with Republicans, it's 27%. So in aggregate, not dividing Democrats or Republicans up into subgroups, which this report will do later on, it seems as though Republicans misjudge Democrats more than Democrats misjudge Republicans. Next, we have the results of a different study. This different study is called Hidden Tribes. And you can go and take a quiz, I think it's hiddentribes.us, and figure out which of these 7 tribes of Americans you belong to. So the biggest tribe are the politically disengaged. These people don't vote. They don't have strong opinions on political matters. They got other stuff that they care about. And then to the left and to the right of this, there are 3 categories. So to the left, the largest group of people to the left of the politically disengaged are passive liberals. And there's 15% of, they account for 15% of the population. To the left of that is traditional liberals. That's 11% of the population. And then at the far extreme on the left, we have progressive activists. Well, at the far extreme on the right, we have what is called by this study devoted conservatives, the smallest segment of the population at 6%. And then moving toward the center from there, we have traditional conservatives and moderates. Now, if you'd ask me where I would place myself in this grouping, it would be pretty tough, because clearly I'm not politically disengaged, and I often vote libertarian, particularly for president. But at the same time, I recognize that people struggle in life, and not everybody starts in the same place. Some people have it easier, some people have luck. I am definitely not, by any stretch, a hardcore believer in this fabled meritocracy. I do not believe that our political system or our economic system is a perfect sorter of people into categories that, demonstrate how much effort they've put out and how much value they have provided to their, the people around them and to their society. The person who really believes strongly in meritocracy thinks that you can tell how hard a person works and how much value they create for others by how rich they are. If they're very rich, they're obviously working hard and doing a lot for other people, and creating value that is shared in their society. And if they're doing poorly, well, it's clearly because they're not working very hard, and what they do doesn't create much value, isn't of much use. That's what, a meritocraticist, I guess you could call them, would believe, and I'm definitely not that. But other than that, I didn't really feel at home in any of these categorizations, so I went and I took the test, and guess which one I got classified as. If you guessed traditional liberal, you are correct. So, of these 7 tribes of Americans, of all of these groups, who do you think has the clearest view of what other people believe? If you guessed the politically disengaged, you are correct. Reading from the report. The Perception Gap Quiz finds that the most partisan, politically active Americans, a group we call the Wings, have deeply distorted perceptions of the other side. The 2 groups with the widest perception gaps are the progressive activists and the devoted conservatives, the most ideological and committed groups of Democrats and Republicans. And which is the most accurate segment? Surprisingly, the politically disengaged. They are fully 3 times more accurate in their estimates of political opponents than members of either of these wing groups. The V-shaped perception gap shows that the less invested you are in politics today, the less distorted your perception of politics. Do you find that surprising? And if not, ask yourself, why not? And if so, ask yourself, why? Now, do you see any contradiction here or anything that doesn't quite mesh, doesn't quite line up? If the perception gap measures how accurate you are in your assessment of what you think the other side believes, who is the other side compared to the politically disengaged? Who's the opposition? Is it the strongly engaged on both sides, the progressive activists and the devoted conservatives? I don't know, and I don't really have any way to interrogate this report, so we'll just have to let that ambiguity go. So the next section is, the title is News Media Doesn't Help, and that's where I'll pick up tomorrow. All right, and before I go, let me just ask you a quick favor. One, if it's not too much trouble, just click on that like button, and if it's also not too much trouble, and you enjoy this content and you think it might be useful to somebody else, do use that share button. Share it on Twitter, Reddit, wherever you go to discuss these sorts of things. I'd appreciate it. And also today I am working on a comic strip. It was supposed to be posted yesterday, and I'm many hours for completion. It probably won't be up until tomorrow, but it will be strip number 70 in the Gebb comic strip. Gebb, Gebb, and the website is gebb.io. It is also available on Instagram and what is that other social media site, the one that I never use anymore because they kicked me off? Oh yes, Facebook. In fact, it does much better on Facebook than it does on the actual website. No great surprise there because everybody goes to Facebook, right? Everybody but me. All right, thanks for watching. I will talk to you again tomorrow.